One of the problems with recruiting for investment banking is not the knowledge or skills you acquire, but the access to talk with real investment bankers to put your best foot forward. Our sponsor, WSO Academy, can provide those connections with 60 head mentors who are finance professionals at top firms like Goldman, Centerview, and JP Morgan. Imagine being able to get on the phone within 24 hours with one of the Academy's 1,300 mentors right before a critical interview. Get on the waitlist for WSO Academy today by clicking the link in the show notes or by visiting wallstreetoasis.com/academy. All right. Welcome to Investment Banking Insights, the only podcast dedicated to helping you learn both the technical and non-technical aspects of investment banking. My name is Alex Mason and I am your host. Thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate your time, your attention as we learn investment banking together. So let's go ahead and get into it. We started a brand new topic, a brand new series here on the show. We're going through mergers and acquisitions. We just spent a lot of time talking about discounted cash flow. Now let's talk about the basics surrounding M&A. And as I mentioned in the last episode, this is such a big part of investment banking. There are some investment banks that derive almost all of the revenue just from M&A activity. So especially if you are interested in interviewing with a bank that primarily does mergers and acquisition work, then you're going to need to know this stuff in and out. So let's go ahead and get into it. We talked about last time, walk me through a merger model and just went through the different steps of the merger model. I really enjoyed putting that episode together. I think it brought a lot of value. So yeah, check that out if you haven't already. Today's question is this. Very simple, but important question. What's the difference between a merger and an acquisition? I mean, we talk about M&A. These terms are often used synonymously, but they're actually a little bit different. Mergers, this is usually a term that's used when two similarly sized companies are combined together. And then an acquisition is usually the term that's used when a bigger company buys out a smaller company. So big company buys a small company, that's considered an acquisition. Two similarly sized companies come together, maybe one buys another, but they're kind of the same size. Technically it's an acquisition, but it's really more of a merger in terms of the colloquial terms that we can all use. And here's just two quick examples for you. So an example of a merger is actually an investment bank that merged not too long ago, a few years ago, in 2019, when investment bank Piper Jaffray combined with Sandler O'Neill. And if you don't know about this bank, this is now the bank that is called Piper Sandler, based in the Midwest. And yeah, so these two investment banks got together, decided they would be a better organization if they combined their workforces. So they merged, and that's considered a merger. Both companies were already around the same relative size together. Then consider an acquisition. An example I have here is last year, big news in the tech world when Adobe purchased this really amazing web design business called Figma. And everyone in Silicon Valley is like using this thing as a design tool. And Adobe was like, wow, this is real competition here for some of our products and services. Let's go ahead and buy it. So they made a huge acquisition of Figma. I don't remember the price of the acquisition, but I do remember it was very big, even for a company like Adobe, like in the billions of dollars. And even though Figma was being valued as a $1 billion plus company, it may be many billions of dollars. I don't remember the exact number. Even though it's valued like that, Adobe as an organization I think their market cap is in like either the very high tens of billions or might even be over 100 billion now. I know Adobe has had phenomenal growth as a business in the last decade as they moved to a subscription model. So that's an example of an acquisition. You have this mega company, Fortune 500 company, S&P 500 heavyweight, Adobe, buying this very, very fast growing, but also relatively small business called Figma. So that's an example of an acquisition. Very simple concept, mergers and acquisitions. You'll hear M&A tossed around all the time. You'll see that very frequently, but that's the simple difference between the two terms. And we'll leave it at that. So that's what I got for you today here on Investment Banking Insights. My name is Alex Mason, your host, and we're going to keep going down this M&A train. I'll see you next time.